All right. Good to have everyone on. We're going to dive in. Let me share my screen here. Welcome to the live webinar, How to Find the Best Investments and Get Out of the Rat Race in 8 years or Less. There are things that I want you to learn tonight. I hope that you're going to learn tonight that perhaps you've not seen before or heard about before. And everyone's situation is a little bit different. So, just a little bit about myself. I've been in financial services for 25 years. I'm a 17-year real estate investor. I have clients all over the country. Many of you on the webinar tonight are clients of mine. Thank you. I'm the founder of a company called Focus Wealth Group, but I work with a lot of other groups, estate attorneys, CPAs, real estate investors, and developers. I'm a wealth coach and mentor. Not only do I coach and work with a lot of you, a lot of clients, I coach and mentor hundreds and hundreds of other agents out there. They come to me because they want to learn about properly structured IBC. They want to learn about policy loans. They want to learn about real estate investing. I've also owned or have been a part of multi-million dollar companies. A lot of that is in the real estate world. I won't get into it today, but many of you are familiar with the crash of 2008. For me personally, I was living in Las Vegas. I lost over $1.4 million in that debacle of the crash of 2008. Now, fortunately, I learned a lot along the way and have recovered quite well, but it was a brutal time. So I've seen the upsides, I've seen the downsides, and tonight I'm going to be sharing with you a lot of what I've learned. How many of you, by either raising your hand or typing something into the Q&A, watch the show Shark Tank? I love it. I've watched it for years and years. What I love about Shark Tank is that they are showing people that the American dream is possible. You can come in and create and develop whatever you want. You can be whoever you want to be. The opportunities are limitless. Part of tonight is you thinking outside of the box. What opportunities are there for you to grab a hold of? Because look, if you want to have financial freedom in 8 years or less, you've got to do something differently, more than likely, than what you're doing today. You have to become a different person than you are today. You have to grow into that person that can get out of the rat race in 8 years or less. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen by staying stagnant or staying where we are. We have to do other things. Well, the reason I'm mentioning Shark Tank is because people are doing different things. They're doing something about it. And the ideas can be very simple. For example, look at this. Bombas socks. Who would have thought that a sock company would do over $1 billion in lifetime sales? Their sales range right now, I think, between $200 to $300 million a year. You guys, this is a sock company. Like you think, oh, I've got this idea. I'm going to just create the most incredible sock. Well, what about the competition? There are so many other sock companies out there. How did Bombas pull it off? They thought differently. Or how about this? The Scrub Daddy? You can go to Target or Walmart or any grocery store and you can buy a scrubber for your dishes. Why did Scrub Daddy take off? You got to think outside of the box. Scrub Daddy, again, over $1 billion in lifetime sales. How about Cousin's Maine Lobster? They started with a truck, just a food truck. Now, at least at last I checked, they have over 85 trucks, and each one of those trucks is doing about 1.3 million in sales a year. Very simple idea, starting with one idea. Or how about these guys, the Dude Wipes? These are wipes, right? We know about baby wipes. You can go to any store and get baby wipes. You guys are like, hey, let's do some Dude Wipes. the guys need some wipes, not just the babies. Again, 100 million a year in sales, just phenomenal stories. But all of these ideas, we've already seen the ideas. It's not like anything is new here. They got creative, they believed in a product, and they went out and made things happen. So the only limits that we really have are the limits that we give ourselves in our minds, those limiting beliefs. You think about socks, a scrubber, wipes. There's nothing genius about this stuff. They just decided we're going to market this. We're going to do something that no one's ever done before, and we're going to conquer in these particular fields. So part of tonight is you thinking about how can you generate more income? How can you create more wealth along the way? And we're going to go through more ideas as we go through the webinar. We got the scrub daddy in our kitchen. My wife has him too. We will learn tonight a specific system that will help you find the best investments and get out of the rat race. Had I known about this in my 30s, I would have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. I probably wouldn't have lost over $1.4 million in the crash of 2008. I'd probably be much further ahead, but you live and you learn. The principles tonight are very simple, but they're profound and they're powerful. You know, Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors out there, he has these two rules of money. It's kind of funny. Rule number one, never lose money. Rule number two, don't forget rule number one. Now, I've lost money. I'm sure a lot of you out there have lost money. You feel violated. You feel frustrated. You're like, I'm never going to do that again. But what do? Human nature will go do it again. But we want to stick as close to these principles as possible of what do we need to do to not lose money. And I'll tell you, this is a nugget, but it's very simple in its description. And the nugget is the way you mitigate risk is through education. I'm no surgeon. I'm not going to perform surgery on someone tomorrow. That would be very risky for me, but it would be even more risky for the person that I would be operating on. Why? Because I don't have the education. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the experience. I don't have the expertise. The doctor that's going to perform surgery tomorrow, it's less risky. Why? Because of the education, because of the knowledge, because of that experience. So we can mitigate risk through education. That's a big part of it. I'm going to pull up a whiteboard here. And specifically, I want to talk about volatility because, you know, Warren Buffett, he owns companies, he puts a lot of money in the market. Imagine if this straight line represented the dollar amount of zero and you're in an investment and you have years that are positive, you're doing great, maybe some really huge years here, but you're in the market. It's 401k, it's IRA, it's stocks, it's mutual funds, it's ETFs, anything that's market based. Now, there is a myth here that I want to dispel. You will hear from financial advisors about diversifying your portfolio. A financial advisor, when they tell you to diversify your portfolio, what they're doing is they're just putting you in different stocks or mutual funds or ETFs. That is not true diversification. Okay, I want to be clear about that. That is one asset class, the market. True diversification is different asset classes. I'm not going to get into all the asset classes today, but if you are only focused on the market, which is what most people do, you don't just have up years. You also have the down years, the losses. Here's our big 2008 loss, right? I mean, just these losses. So when you look at this across the board, you're going up, you're going down, you're going up, you're going down, you're going all over the place. right? At the end of the day, market-based investments give you really no control. It's a lot of speculation. It's a lot of uncertainty. There's no predictability. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't invest in the market. I personally have a Charles Schwab brokerage account. I invest in the market. I do it all myself. I'm not paying a financial advisor 1%. I do everything myself. And I'm investing in companies like Tesla, Nvidia, Microsoft. I got into SpaceX, but I do invest in the market. But what I'm not doing, I'm not putting money in a 401k or an IRA that is primarily government controlled. I'm not getting into those details. There are reasons for that. And if you're getting a match on your 401k, that's all right with me. But I don't ever recommend that you contribute more than the match. And if you have questions about that, you can schedule a call with me. So, market-based volatility, we have to be aware that volatility is an eroding factor of our money. You've got to take it into consideration. And one of the things that I'll do here is talk about average versus actual, because I hear this more times than I would like to, that people will say to me, well, Barry, I'm getting a 7% average return. Or Dave Ramsey, he'll tell you you've got mutual funds, or he'll advise you on mutual funds where you're earning a 12% average rate of return. First of all, that isn't very realistic. It's unfair for him to do that. But what I'm going to show you here is that an average return is not an actual return. So we're going to look at, this is just the Truth Concepts calculator. And what I've done is I've just run for 2 years. And I'm showing a $100,000 investment going in year one, earning a 100% rate of return. So the 100,000 grows to 200,000. Okay, this is hypothetical. But in year two, that 200,000 loses 50%. So we see the minus 50% in red. And the 200,000 is back down to the 100,000 we started with. Now, I could run this for 4 years. I could run it for 8 years. I could run it for 20 years. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long I do this. Up 100%, down 50%, the math will always be the same. You know, by looking at this, that after 2 years, you have the exact same 100,000 that you started with. Your actual rate of return is zero, right? You have the same 100 grand, but watch this. I'm going to click on this percentage and check that out. The average rate of return in that investment is 25%. And this is what your financial advisor is telling you, or Wall Street's telling you. Hey, look at that average return. And you're looking at your statement, or you're looking at your portfolio and you're saying, I've got the same amount of money. How in the world did I get an average 25% rate of return? It's because of the math. Basically, you take 100%, you minus 50, you're left over with 50, you divide it by 2 years, there's your 25% average rate of return. The point I'm wanting to stress right here is average rates of return are completely meaningless. You have to look at your actual return. So the next time someone says, well, I'm averaging this, or your CPA says you're going to get an average of 7%, or your financial advisor says you're going to get an average of 7%, your next question should be, but what is my actual rate of return? All right. Let's look at the S&P 500. Okay, this is the most popular, let me move this over, popular index out there. And I'm taking this back to 1930, basically inception. And since inception, the S&P 500 is 8%. So 1930 all the way to 2025. And you guys look at this, like 27% in 1936. We've got a 15% return in 72. We've got a 26% in 85. These are positive returns. We've got, let's see, after the crash, 08, 09. Look at this. 2009, 23% returns. And just last year, 2025, 16%. Well, all that combined is only an 8% average rate of return. Watch what happens. I'm going to copy these numbers. This is 96 years. Copy. We're going to put this into, and go back to this calculator, move it over, and we're going to change this to 96 years. Let me take out the money, make this 0. We're going to pop in those returns, paste values. Now we have the same thing, right? I'm going to click on the percentage. There's our 8% average rate of return. This isn't accurate. It's not accurate because we haven't put any money into the math. And this is where things kind of go sideways. So let's assume that the value is, I don't know, 100,000, a million, whatever we want to use here. $1 million. When you put actual money, real money into the math, look at the rate of return. It's 6.2%, not 8%. But wait, we're not done, right? But wait, there's more. If you have a brokerage account and it's being managed, you're probably going to pay anywhere between a half to maybe 1.2%. I'm just going to show a 1% fee, keep it simple. Look at the rate of return, it drops it to 5.14%. But wait, there's more. What about taxes? This is a taxable account. If it's a 401k, it's a tax deferred account. Regardless, you're going to have to pay the tax. Let's just show 28% as a blended rate. Remember the marginal brackets. If you're in a 36% tax bracket, it doesn't mean that you are paying 36% on all of your income. That's a conversation for another time if you're not sure what I'm talking about. But a blended rate of 28%, watch that 5.14 number. It drops to 2%. So volatility, taxes, fees, these are things that will erode your overall portfolio. So Robert Kiyosaki, in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talked about investing in assets for cash flow. And that's really what we're going to get into today is cash flow. The rich buy assets. The rich have money work for them, said Robert Kiyosaki. We want money working for us. Having money work for us takes some pressure off, but it's providing cash flow, passive income. So we are primarily educated in the world of investing by these companies that you see on the screen. You're all familiar with these companies. They want you to believe that if you put money with them, you are on this path to freedom, to exhilaration, to long walks on the beach, right? Sunsets, drinking your pina colada. That if you invest with them and you follow what they're teaching you, you have nothing to worry about. Well, you guys, I've done this for 25 years. I have taught to thousands and thousands of people all across the country that have followed the traditional financial advice. And guess what? It doesn't work for most people. I'm not going to say it doesn't ever work, but for most people, it doesn't work. There are some anomalies out there. But when you take all the risk, when you deal with market volatility, unknown future tax rates, hidden fees within a portfolio, there is a huge eroding factor. And guess what? The entire time, these companies were making money. I've got a Charles Schwab account. They're making money somehow. I'm not paying them, but they're making money somehow. Probably some arbitrage on what I'm paying for stocks versus what I'm selling, but I'm not paying them a fee out of my own pocket per se, but they're making some money somewhere on my portfolio. Well, you want to be in a position where you're in more control. Because at the end of the day, if you lose money in your portfolio, these companies, they still made money. Be aware of what's going on here. Think about this question. because those companies that I just mentioned, they talk a lot about net worth. What's your nest egg? I'm sure you've heard that. And that net worth, really, in my opinion, is the wrong question. The question we should be asking is what's your cash flow? Run this scenario, and we could use whatever numbers here we want. But let's say you had a net worth of 3 million, but you had income, your income was 60,000 a year. Compared to what if you had cash flow of 250,000 a year and only a 500,000 net worth? What would you rather have? And let's say the 3 million net worth is in land or real estate. There's untapped equity there. Could be a portfolio too, but it's untapped equity. For me, what I want all of you to see is I would rather have the 250,000 a year of cash flow and less net worth. Why? Because I can do more with the money. See, this side over here offers freedom. There's freedom in cash flow. Tonight, I want to show you more ways to get cash flow. And then you brainstorm and you think about what can you do in your own life to create more cash flow. This is the crux of it right here. The four pillars of wealth that I learned about that helped me make better investment decisions. And what's great about the four pillars of wealth is once you learn these, you can run any investment that ever comes by you through the four pillars of wealth. And within a matter of a few minutes, you'll know, is it a good investment or a bad investment? Now, I've heard people say there are no bad investments, there are just bad investors. I don't believe that. There are bad investments out there. There are people that are scamming. There are people that are showing fake numbers or inflated projections. There are bad investments out there, so be aware of the bad investments. You want to vet the deals. You want to vet the principals and the owners of the company. The four pillars of wealth will allow you to quickly determine, is what you're looking at a good investment? So let's go through them. And this is where you should probably take some notes. This is being recorded, but we are live. The four pillars of wealth start, number one, with appreciation. You want appreciation in the investment you're getting into. So if it's real estate, you hope there's appreciation in the real estate property, whether it's commercial, residential, land, whatever, you want appreciation. Now, I got to pause here because I'm going to clarify one thing. Overarching all of this, the four pillars of wealth, and what you see wealthy do is they maintain control. Have you ever heard the saying, own nothing, control everything? And the wealthy say this because they don't want the liability of ownership. So they're using trusts and LLCs and corporations. I have all those. And if you don't, I would encourage you to get those. Again, you can schedule a call with me and we can talk about it. We can point you in the right direction of how to have more control and more protection. But overarching for the four pillars of wealth is control. The second pillar with appreciation, we've already talked about it, it's cash flow. If you own a business, do you have cash flow? Yeah, you're not going to be in business if you don't have cash flow. So a business provides cash flow. Real estate rental income provides cash flow. Some of you might have intellectual property, maybe a book, maybe music, maybe some invention that you're getting royalties from. This is all cash flow. The third pillar of wealth, you ready? Is leverage. What do I mean by leverage? Well, there's ways to leverage time and to leverage money. If you're a doctor, a chiropractor, you run a business and you have employees, you are leveraging your time by hiring people to do things that you don't want to do. If you're a doctor and your primary goal is to perform surgery, and that's how you make your money when you're working on a patient in the operating room, that's where you're going to want your focus. You don't want to go back to the office as a doctor and be taking the phone calls. That would be a poor use of time, and you would not be leveraging your time in that instance. Leveraging time allows you to have other people doing things for you so you can be focused on what you're best at. Leveraging money, it could be loans, OPM. Raise your hand if you know the acronym OPM. I'll describe it here in a minute. A lot of you have high cash value whole life insurance. You take policy loans. I take policy loans to invest in real estate, to buy crypto. My son called me 3 months ago. He wanted a car, didn't want to go through a bank. We used the family banking system and we bought a car for him. Policy loans, OPM, you guys got it? Other people's money, credit unions, banks, private lending. There's a lot of different ways that you can get cash flow and leverage. Now watch this. What does leverage do? Let's just keep the dollars simple. Let's say you had $1 million to put into a real estate property. You could buy the real estate property outright for the $1 million and own it free and clear. But what would be better? What if you bought 5 real estate properties and you put down 20% on each one of those properties at $200,000 each and use other people's money for the remaining portion of the purchase? Now you have 5 rentals. You're making 5 times the amount of rental income versus just the rental income on one. And when you do the math, you come out ahead on that quite a bit. Leveraging. So what happens is when you leverage can actually increase appreciation because you can buy more assets with the same amount of money, and it increases cash flow. This is cyclical. Using leverage to your advantage creates more cash flow. It creates more appreciation. Robert Kiyosaki, he's put out a lot of content. Have any of you seen the video that he did recently? He was talking about Dave Ramsey, how Dave Ramsey's helping people get out of debt. Don't ever use debt. Robert said, I use debt to create more wealth. The trick is he's not over leveraged. There's loan to value, where let's say you've got a portfolio worth $10 million and you have a loan to value of 50%. You only owe $5 million on the portfolio. That's good leverage. And if it's lower than that, great. But the other thing that those real estate investors can do, and I've done, is you can refinance, you can take cash out, tax-free, and you can go buy more real estate. So leverage is probably one of the most powerful pillars here out of the 4 pillars. Why do companies like Apple and Tesla and Amazon, why do they have debt? They're sitting on billions of dollars of cash. Why do they have debt? Because they are using other people's money, banks' money, to go grow their business. What you don't want to use debt for are consumables. And that's really what Dave Ramsey's helping people with, right? If you're buying the television and putting vacations on credit cards and just going crazy with those consumable debts, that's not good. but using leverage and debt to buy assets and create greater cash flow is fantastic. I had a client just come to me in the last few weeks, said, "Hey, Barry, I've got this real estate opportunity. It's like a 22% rate of return. I feel good about it. The numbers pencil. Should I take a policy loan?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, you should take a policy loan. Take a policy loan at 6%, earn the 22, you arbitrage the difference. You should be doing that all day long. That's creating wealth." What is the fourth pillar of wealth? This one's going to be a little surprising, maybe a little shocking. The fourth pillar of wealth is taxes. What? How can taxes be a pillar of wealth? I'm not talking about paying taxes. I'm talking about reducing taxes, paying the least amount of tax possible. Now, I'll let you in on something that I did last year. I did what's called a fee simple donation. I hate paying taxes. There's so much government waste. It's ridiculous. It drives me crazy. My kids know that if they want to get me fired up, we talk about taxes. So last year I did a fee simple donation, and that fee simple donation gave me a 5x multiple on my total deductible amount of my gross income. 5x. I put in a certain amount of money, I got a 5x multiple. So I can help you with strategies like that and guide you to the right people, attorneys, and groups that know that stuff very, very well. I don't want to pay the taxes, or I want to pay the least amount of taxes possible. We live in an amazing country, the greatest country on the planet, but we pay a ton of tax. Mitigate the taxes. Three primary ways we see taxes: tax deferred, taxable, and my favorite, tax free. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. Tax deferred 401ks, IRAs, qualified plans, taxable CDs, real estate, savings accounts, tax free. There's really only three for the most part: a Roth IRA, some municipal bonds, and cash value life insurance. What I want to do now is let's walk through just a few examples. Let's say you've got money in stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, right? You get the idea. Market-based. And let's run these through the four pillars of wealth. Can you have appreciation? Yes. Is it guaranteed? No. So there is a possibility of appreciation, and you hope so. I hope my stocks appreciate. Cash flow, not really, until you either sell, maybe you have dividend paying stocks and you're getting cash flow from the dividends, or maybe down the road, you're going to do something different with that stock portfolio that will turn into cash flow. I'll talk about one of those in a minute. Leverage, yeah, you can do a margin loan, but you could also have a margin call. If you take a margin loan on your stock portfolio and that portfolio drops, you could be getting hit up by the investment company saying, "Hey, there's a margin call. Your loan is due." Usually margin loans might be a little higher interest rate, 7, 8, 9%. So can you leverage a stock portfolio? Maybe. Is it safe? Maybe, maybe not. Taxes, there's not really a benefit here because most stock market portfolios are taxable or they're tax deferred. When you look at stocks and mutual funds and ETFs in a 401k and IRA, this is what I have a big problem with. You nor I nor the greatest financial advisor out there has any idea what taxes will be 10, 20, 30 years from now. Some of you are saying, "Well, Barry, the big, beautiful tax bill, it's permanent." That's what we're hearing. It's permanent. No, it isn't. Permanent when it comes to government things doesn't mean permanent. It could be changed. It could be changed in 2 years. It could be changed in 6 years. So it might be permanent right now, but it doesn't mean that it's permanent. If you look historically at our taxes, maybe I'll pull this up. I hadn't intended to do this, but since we're talking about it, check this out. US tax history. This is shocking. 1913. Look at this. 1920, highest marginal bracket, 73%. A few more decades, highest marginal bracket, over 90%. If you read Ronald Reagan's biography, he later became a president, but before that, he was an actor. He said he wouldn't make more than 2 movies in a year because it would throw him into that highest marginal bracket, and he got taxed at 90%. He said, well, it doesn't make any sense for me to keep making movies beyond two a year because all that money is basically going to the government. So permanent is one thing, but reality is another. So that's stocks and mutual funds. What about a business? A business, you hope, has appreciation. Business, we talked about it, has cash flow. Can you leverage a business? Yeah, you could franchise. You could create other branches of the business. You can hire employees for things you don't want to do. So, yeah, you can leverage a business. And businesses have phenomenal tax benefits. So, I'm all about starting a business. So, one of the things that you can think about today, can you start a business? If you're a W-2 employee, you're getting taxed at some of the highest rates. I encourage W-2 employees to start a side hustle, create an LLC, do something you love, sell something on Amazon, sell something on Etsy, whatever is in your wheelhouse, do something to start a business because now you're getting business deductions. You can write off the expenses, travel and mileage and right equipment, whatever that looks like. So I love people starting businesses, or if you have a business now, add some fuel to the fire to your business to make it grow if you want. Okay, maybe you're not in the position where you want it to grow, but if you're like, man, I want more cash flow, my business is great, I love what I do, duplicate yourself. There's a little golden nugget for you. If you're like, man, I'm tapped out, I'm making 500,000 a year, 1 million a year, 3 million a year, I'm tapped out. Duplicate yourself. Get someone in your business that can do what you do, pay them well, make it worth their time and effort, sign a contract, keep them involved. Golden handcuffs, there are things that you can do there to keep them involved, to have payouts come later, right? Vesting schedules, etc. But I love starting a business. How about real estate? RE. When we run real estate through the four pillars, appreciation, yes, we hope so. Cash flow, absolutely, if it's done correctly. Leverage, yeah, you can leverage real estate like I talked about, where if there's equity built up, you take a loan, you take that equity, it's tax free, you go buy more real estate. I've seen countless people do this. And taxes, absolutely. Get familiar with the word depreciation. Get familiar with the phrase cost segregation. If you don't know what cost segregation is, schedule a call with me. Here's another little nugget. It's called the Augusta rule. If you own real estate, you can have some additional write-offs through what's called the Augusta rule. Phenomenal way for taxes, to mitigate taxes. And lastly, my favorite that most of you are familiar with is cash value insurance. Cash value insurance is guaranteed appreciation. How about that? No market risk, no volatility. You have a vehicle, an asset in your portfolio that is guaranteed to appreciate every year, not only in cash value, but also the death benefit. Cash flow, yep, has dividends. You can turn that cash value into income later in life. We're going to get into that in a minute. You can leverage. We love that. Policy loans using cash value insurance and taxes. If done correctly, you don't violate the MEC limit, you fund a policy the way it's supposed to be funded, and you keep it in force until you pass away. Boom, right here, it's 100% tax free. Question: why isn't the velocity of money a part of the pillars? Overall, the velocity of money is everything we're talking about here. You're investing into an asset to create appreciation, to create cash flow, to create leverage. So the velocity of money is like the byproduct. You're putting that money to work, but there are only four pillars to actually create wealth. So that's a great question. Just think about the velocity of money. You're keeping that money in motion. So if we go to the real estate and you've got, I talked to a couple just a few weeks ago, $800,000 of equity in their house. And they say, hey, we want more assets. I'm like, why aren't you tapping $800,000 of equity in your home? And look, there's something to be said for peace of mind and having a home paid off free and clear. I'm personally not a big fan of that because there are things you can do with a reverse mortgage, etc. Why not use that untapped equity to go buy more assets to get the velocity of money in all these areas: appreciation, cash flow, leverage, taxes, a lot of different things that we can be doing? That's a great question. So the velocity of money is keeping the money in motion. All right. What does it take to get out of the rat race? This is the answer. The answer is when your passive income is equal to or greater than your expenses. That's it. How do you get your passive income to equal or be greater than your expenses? And that's what I want you to think about tonight. What can you do to make this happen? Don't get anxious about it. Don't feel like you've got to go do something about this and have all the answers tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. I titled this webinar, Get Out of the Rat Race in 8 years or Less. 8 years. That's a long time for putting these plans together. But getting passive income equal to or greater than your expenses. Now, there is a myth about passive income. Is passive income really passive? Well, it can be. The definition of passive is like, well, I'm not doing anything about it. It's happening. It's passive. It just comes to me no matter what. And, true investors they're working. They're making this stuff happen. So you've got to put some work in. I was with a group of guys last night and I talked about one of my favorite principles of all. And it's this: hard, easy versus easy, hard. I first learned this back in 2011 from my friend Garrett Gunderson. Garrett wrote a book called What Would the Rockefellers Do? Killing Sacred Cows. And I remember Garrett teaching hard, easy versus easy, hard. What does it mean in a nutshell? Do the hard things today to have an easier life in the future. Put in the work today to have more income in the future. Too many people are settling for easy now. They have difficult lives. They have hard later in their lives. The person that goes to school for 12 years after high school to become a doctor, that's hard. But now that person's making tremendous amounts of income. So make that a principle in your own life. Hard, easy. Do the hard things today to have an easier life in the future. I say that because passive just isn't passive. You still got to put in the work. So we're going to look at what is passive income. And all of you out there, this is different for everybody. Just like a cash value whole life policy has to be uniquely designed for a person's goals, a person's income, a person's financial wherewithal, so does passive income. So you're going to do the math on this yourself. And you could pencil it now or you could pencil it later. I went to Google and I just said, hey, what are the averages? So housing and utilities, 2,200 a month up to 3,500 a month. And that, whether that's a mortgage payment or rent, right? Whatever that looks like for you, 2,200 a month to 3,500 a month. Food and groceries, transportation, healthcare, right? Insurance, personal care, clothes. These are some ranges. Now, somebody be like, man, my mortgage payment, it's 7 grand a month. Or food, we're eating out every night. We're spending like 3 grand a month on food. Again, you've got to look at these numbers individually. So passive income based on these numbers, somewhere between 4,800 a month and 8,400 a month. How do you get there? Well, this is one of my real estate deals. I'm pulling back the curtain. This is an actual real estate deal that I own right now. It's in Utah, Logan, Utah. And I bought this property originally because one, that it penciled, but two, my son was living up there. I thought he might live in it for college. And what's cool about this property is it's on a parcel of land near the university, and there are two houses on one property. So I'm getting rents in both the back house and the front house. So the purchase price was 500,000, mortgage is 1875, insurance, taxes. The tenants pay the utilities, right? I don't have to worry about that. And the total monthly expenses for me, 2,139, and the total rent is 2,800. So my positive cash flow is $661 per month for a total of $7,932 a year. So I want you to think about some numbers. $100,000 down payment on this house. We have what's called a cash on cash rate of return. Now, I've done several videos where I go into more real estate. I'm going to put a plug in here. October 15th, we're doing part 2 of this where I'm going to get into more of those numbers. But a cash on cash rate of return is how much cash flow are you getting relative to the amount of cash you put down. So a $100,000 down payment on this property generating $7,932 a year is a 7.9% cash on cash rate of return. That's one number that I look at to say, how does the property pencil? But there's another number. And the other number is, what do I expect the property is going to increase to? Appreciation. Remember that first pillar of wealth. What is it going to appreciate to when I'm ready to sell? Now, I haven't sold this property. I still own it. I'm still getting rents on it today. But let's say I sell it in 10 years and the 500,000 that I paid for the property, let's say the value grows to 600,000. So over 10 years, cash flow, I would have earned $79,000 of free cash flow. And I'm anticipating rents will go up, but I'm just keeping the math very simple. That's $79,000 of free cash flow. If I sell it for 600,000, I'm going to make $100,000, but I also put down money. So I'm going to get all that money back too. That is part of the equation. I make 79 grand over 10 years. I got depreciation along the way. Someone else was paying down my mortgage, right? So that mortgage balance is going down. So the net proceeds that I get at the end of the day, I not only get all my money back, I get money coming to me that someone else paid down the mortgage for me. Make sense? Awesome ways to think about real estate. Here's another deal. Okay, deal number 2. This is a deal I am actively looking at right now. And when we have our next webinar, part 2 in October, I'm going to be sharing with you real estate companies that I use and real estate companies that my clients use. So if you're like, Barry, where do I find these deals? We're going to talk about those companies specifically, part 2 in October. So I'm looking at this deal right now. It's in Kansas. This is a duplex townhome. The overall purchase price is $485,000. That's both sides, 2 units. Okay, they're together And this is new construction. It's already occupied. They just want to sell it. I'm looking at what is my cash on cash rate of return. And you can see that right here. Projected year one, cash on cash rate of return, 7.93%. But remember, that is not the only variable that you look at when it comes to real estate. And look, you might want to buy a business. You might want to buy an existing business rather than starting your own business. Cash on cash rate of return works for a business, but it's only one variable. You also want to be looking at appreciation of the business. Can you leverage the business? Are there certain things that you can do to make it more valuable? What a lot of people will do with real estate is they'll say, how can I increase that appreciation right off the bat? Can I raise rents? Maybe it's a property that this person has owned for a very long time and they haven't raised rents for 10 years. And you're saying, hey, the market really supports a 12% increase on the rents. I'm going to immediately increase my cash flow by 12% because that prior owner didn't really have a feel for the market. Well, that's one example, right? You're looking at all this. Well, check this out. This property is projected to have increased rents over time, not only because of what's happening at the project itself, but also what's called forced appreciation. What does that mean? We've talked about appreciation, and this would fall into that pillar of wealth about appreciation. But what is forced appreciation? This is a three-phase development. This is only phase one. Well, what's going to happen when they get to phase two, and what will happen when they get to phase three? Probably two things. One, labor cost might go up slightly, and supply cost might go up slightly. That forced appreciation, and then there's inflation too, right? So 3, 4, 5 years from now, when they're in phase three, and I bought at 485 in phase one, maybe phase three, the opening price will be 5.25. That's forced appreciation. Forced appreciation is in addition to regular appreciation, which is usually inflation, right? Cost of living, etc. But the forced appreciation here is get in on phase one. We know phase two is coming. We know phase three is coming. There's going to be a clubhouse and a swimming pool and other things like that. It's a way that you think about the variables when you're getting into real estate. It's not just about cash on cash rate of return. It's not just about the cap rate. It's not just about the money hitting your bank account every month. You got to look at all the other variables. What about the location? Is it a growing area? What about the economy around it? What businesses are coming into that city that might bring jobs, that might bring more people that want that particular house or that particular rental? I'm going to show you one of the real estate deal, but before we do, there is another way to generate income, and that's through a guaranteed income annuity. Some of you out there have or will have or know someone that does have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in a 401k or an IRA. They got high net worth, perhaps, and very little cash flow coming off of those investments. When someone comes to me and says, Barry, I've got an old 401k, or I'm getting ready to retire and I've got $2 million in my 401k, what do you recommend? I recommend some of that money go into a guaranteed income annuity. Why? Number one, it takes that out of the market. It's protected and it's a guaranteed lifetime income payout. And just think about that for a minute. Guaranteed income for the rest of your life. You can't run out of money with this type of annuity. There's traditionally out there what's called the 4% Monte Carlo rule. And the professionals talk about it's broken. It's more like 2.8%. I'm not going to get into that. I've done videos about that. But let's just say it's 4%. Well, would you rather have 4% and you deplete the money with the potential of running out of money, because that's how the 4% Monte Carlo rule works, that you could potentially run out of money. Here, this guaranteed income annuity is going to give you 30 to 50% more spendable income. That's cash flow. That's passive income. You turned an asset into income. That's the goal. Taking assets or creating assets and turning those assets into income. So, option one, you've got what's called a SPIA, a single premium immediate annuity. Today, they're paying out 6.5% to 9%, much better than 4%. And you never run out of money. Did I say that earlier? Guaranteed income that you cannot outlive. Option two, this is another annuity, guaranteed income annuity. Right now, they're paying 20 to 30% bonuses on the first year. So if you put in $1 million, day one, that million turns into 1.2 million and 1.3 million, depending on what company we use. And then it grows 10% every year thereafter. You could take income next year, you could take income 12 years from now. You just let that thing grow over and over and over. When you're ready to take the income, you flip on that income switch, you're going to get guaranteed lifetime income that you cannot outlive. So I wanted to address this because a lot of you have or you know people that have qualified money, 401ks and IRAs. They need to know about this. I'm not going to advise them or you to put all of your 401k money into a guaranteed income annuity, but you should put a portion of it in, 20%, 30%, 50%, whatever you choose to do, that's up to you. But absolutely, there should be some portion of your money that goes into a guaranteed income annuity. And this is backed up with financial science, not just my opinion. I can point you to the studies, 50,000 simulations that were done by Dr. Wade Pfau, and he proved 30 to 50% more spendable income. Dalbar's done the studies. Bloomberg has done the studies. Forbes have done the studies. So these are third-party studies. Morningstar, right? I'm thinking of all these companies that have done the studies. These annuities are phenomenal because you never have to worry about that portion of your money ever being lost, ever being gone. More questions. How about a loan to fund OP1? Yep, you can do that. Absolutely, you can do that. And all these things, the questions that are being asked, the things that you guys are thinking, you can schedule a call with me. We can go through your specific situation and your specific goals. Let's go to the next slide here. Okay, another real estate deal, another real estate idea. Okay, this is an awesome idea. I've told my own kids to do this. You can have a primary residence that you live in, and then you sell and make a profit and use all that money tax-free to go do it again. This is one of my houses, okay? I lived in this house. This is a house I lived in Utah. How I was able to only put down 45,000, I don't know, that was a godsend. That was pretty cool. But I put $45,000 on this primary residence. I lived in it with my family for 8 years. At the end of 8 years, sold the house. My sell proceeds were $310,000. Minus the 45,000 that I put down, my net proceeds were 265. Now, obviously, I had a mortgage payment along the way, but I had $265,000 come back to me, 100% tax free. Why? Because of these rules right here. You can sell your primary residence tax free up to $250,000 in profit if you're single, or up to $500,000 if you are married and file taxes together. The rule's this: you must own the home for at least 24 months out of the 5 years before you sell it, and you must live in the home as your main home for at least 24 months out of the 5 years before you sell it. I did this again in another Utah house, and I rented it for about 2.5 years, and then I sold it. So I lived in it for 2 years, moved, rented it for 2.5 years, got all that income for 2.5 years, sold it, all the profits came to me tax free. Well, I'm talking about getting out of the rat race in 8 years or less. What if you did this 4 times in 8 years? And maybe to be more realistic, what if you did it 3 times in 8 years? That is tax-free money. And 8 years over 265, that's about 30,000 a year, maybe a little bit more. So is it possible to be profitable after 2 years? 30 grand on a house? Yeah, I've done it multiple times. I've made much more than that on some home sales. You want to look for deals, right? You want to create value and force appreciation with improvements, carpet, paint, whatever, rehab, whatever that looks like. It's totally possible. I'm sharing this with you as my own primary residence for you to have an idea. This is not a one size fits all conversation. How can you get creative to create more cash flow and profits to get out of the rat race in 8 years or less? I took that money and I put it to work. More rental property and another primary residence. That next primary residence, same thing. I'm getting ready to sell another residence. It's appreciated over $225,000 in 2 years. That's one example. Okay. So this is fun to talk about. We're going to look quickly at just a couple illustrations because some of you asked, well, can I take policy loans to do some of these things? Absolutely. I highly recommend it. That's the main thing of what we're talking about today is using cash value insurance to increase your assets and increase your cash flow. This is a mortality chart, life expectancy. We're going to look at an illustration on a 45-year-old. A 45-year-old today in good health is going to live right here another 38 years out to the age of 83. And I just share that with you because in this high cash value illustration, we're going to show income going to the age of 83. So illustration number one, what if you have 50,000 a year going into a policy? And look, if this number scares you, don't worry about it. If you're like, hey, this is a piece of cake, you can double it and put 100,000 in or quadruple it and put 200,000 in, or you're like, hey, I can only put in 10 grand. Again, we're going to do what works for you. And if you know people that are interested in infinite banking or high cash value whole life, share this stuff with them because the asset is guaranteed, liquid, tax-free, all the things that we've talked about. The great thing about cash value whole life is you're not locking up your money. So this $50,000 year one, the cash value is almost 41,000, just over 80%. You could turn around 30 days later and take a loan for about 90% of that and go put that money to work. If you don't know this, when you take a policy loan, you don't physically remove the money from your cash value. That total cash value is still earning interest and dividends. You're still making money on your total cash value. So you're not locking up the cash. Year two, 50 grows in, year three, all the way through year eight. Because remember what I said, I want to show you how to get out of the rat race in 8 years or less. You're only funding the policy for a total of 8 years. Come year nine, not only are you done funding and you're not putting in any more money, you're going to start taking income. $28,800 per year is $2,400 a month. That will be added to the passive income number. So whatever your passive income number is, you're going to add that now to your passive income number. Hopefully you've got real estate income, maybe some dividend income, maybe some crypto income, maybe some business income, right? Multiple ways to get passive income. Well, this is $28,800 a year. Check this out. 30 years of income. A total of 400,000 went in. How much income was taken out? 28,800 times 30, 864,000. Tax-free income on a $400,000 premium. And if this person passes away at the age of 83, like I projected in the life expectancy chart, there's still a $223,000 death benefit that would have gone to his beneficiaries. So if we add that also to the 864,000, He put in 400,000. He and his family get $1,087,000, 100% tax free. Scenario number two, what if you get crazy with it? Barry, I'm sitting on some extra cash. And what I'm advising people is you take your extra cash, put it in a policy, and run all your deals through a policy. That's what I do. I take policy loans and I go buy more assets. I take the policy loans, I go buy more real estate. Last year, I took a policy loan and I bought crypto. So I'm running my deals and my investments primarily through my multiple cash value whole life policies. Why? Because I'm now making money in two places at the same time. So in this instance, same 50,000 a year, but there's a $200,000 lump sum. So 250 goes in year one, and look at this. 236,000 is available. I love showing the math on this. If we take 236 divided by the 250 that went in, 94% of that premium is going to cash. You're not going to get this from most agents out there because they're more commission driven. This is an extremely low commission product because most of your money is going into cash value, not into my pocket or another agent's pocket where they're putting, 50 grand into base premium and you've got very little cash value. Well, same scenario. Year 9, no more money going in. You funded it for the 8 years. Get out of the rat race in 8 years or less. Now start getting income. The income here is $39,600. If we look at that income per month, 39,600 divide 12, 3,300 a month. 3,300 a month times 12 times 30 years, 1.18 million tax free. By the way, that extra 200,000 that went in year one, if we compare that to not putting in 200,000 in year one, the difference in monthly income is $900 per month. Times that by 12, times that by 30, that extra 200,000 that went in the first year provided a total of $324,000 of more money, a difference of 124,000. So lump summing cash up front not only gives you more future tax-free money, and by the way, this guy's only 54, right? Passive income out of the rat race in this example at the age of 54 with the other things I'm talking about over the next 8 years. So 124,000 more because that 200,000, but he also has more cash available to take out for policy loans. Where the other example, 40,000 policy loans, here you've got 236,000, about 90 to 95% of that is available for policy loans. Your highest rate of return is in your own business or in your career. Generally speaking, I was on a call just 2 days ago with one of my clients in Utah. It's like, Barry, I make more money in my business than I ever do in the stock market. And I was like, yep, you stay focused on your business. That is your highest rate of return. If you're a business owner and you're doing well in your business, or you're a real estate investor and you're doing great as a real estate investor, do not get distracted by the bright, shiny investment opportunities because there's a lot of them out there. Your highest rate of return is in your own business. Focus on your own business. Put the extra cash into whole life insurance because it's guaranteed, liquid, and tax-free. You are your number one asset. None of this happens without you. Focus on yourself, educate yourself, take care of yourself. There's so much I could say about that. Read Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You've got to take care of yourself. Do take care of yourself. You are your number one asset. High cash value whole life and IBC, it's phenomenal. I've said it because it's guaranteed, liquid, protected, tax-free, and it allows you to be in control, like I said, with the 4 pillars of wealth. The wealthy want control. I want you to have control. That's super powerful. And you might be thinking, well, if you're new to this, why haven't I heard of this before? The social proof is everywhere. All these companies, cash value insurance. There's several videos and webinars I've done. I go into the FDIC website. I show you banks that own billions and billions of dollars of cash value insurance. The last number I saw, 205 billion of cash value assets. So if you know where to look, the social proof is everywhere. Pay yourself first. Do what Robert Kiyosaki recommends. Take your money, put it into cash value whole life insurance, then take policy loans and invest in assets. You have to be deliberate. This is not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen overnight. When I started the webinar, I said, you have to become a different person. You have to grow into that person that can get out of the rat race in 8 years or less. Uncommon results require uncommon commitment. My question to you, are you committed? Will you get committed? Because as human beings, we have this propensity to spend money. We make more money, we spend more money. No, if you want financial freedom and you want to get out of the rat race in 8 years or less, you've got to do things differently. You've got to be deliberate. You've got to take control and you've got to take action. My book, see it back here, Live Rich, Die Rich. If you've not read it, I highly recommend it. I go through some of this stuff in the book, plus give other examples. You can get it on Amazon. You can go to liverichdirichbook.com. I'll send you a signed copy. If someone you know would benefit from my book, the first 10 of you that email me, I'll send you the book and you can give it to your friend. You can read it yourself. But I want to send books out for free if you will pay it forward, because people need to learn about this. People need to understand there are things that you can do. So here's my email, Barry at Focus Wealth Group. You send me an email, the first 10 of you that email me, you got to include your address, okay? Don't forget your address or your friend's address. I'll send you or them a signed copy and you share it, pay it forward. I'm going to encourage you, all of you, go to my YouTube channel. You can type in Barry Brooksby at Wealth Optimized. And if you want to schedule a call with me, that's my calendar link. Next webinar live is going to be October 15th. It's going to be part 2 of what we've gone through tonight. What you want to walk away with from this webinar tonight are the ideas. Brainstorm. What can you do to create more cash flow? I've talked a lot about real estate and passive income, annuities, cash value insurance, way to create passive income. And that's the goal. Your passive income is equal to or greater than your monthly expenses. Be deliberate about your future. Take action today to make your future even better than you ever could have imagined. Thanks for being on the webinar. Have a great evening.